Hello everyone. The topic for today's discussion is Iran crisis. Why is Iran in turmoil? From oil rich to economic ruin, we are here to understand the Iran crisis. Let me quickly brief you up regarding the contents that we are going to cover in this particular topic. Firstly, we'll be seeing the current crisis. Moving on, we'll be seeing the Iran's golden era that was in 1970s when Iran was among the world's richest nations. Moving ahead, we'll be discussing about the turning point in Iran, the revolution that changed everything in Iran way back in 1979. Then, we'll be talking about the sanctions regime. As you all know, US has imposed so many sanctions on Iran. So we'll be discussing about the devastating impact of those sanctions on Iranian economy. Then we'll be seeing what are the root causes of it that has led to Iran's decline. And lastly, what are the lessons that India and the world needs to learn from this Iran crisis? Now, firstly, we'll be discussing about the current situation in Iran. As you all know, there has been nationwide protest and economic turmoil everywhere in Iran. Iran is facing a wave of nationwide anti-government protest that marks the biggest challenge to the regime in years. The demonstrations began in Tehran bazaars over rampant inflation. There has been completely economic collapse seen in Iran economy. The currency is collapsing. Citizens are unable to purchase even the basic essential commodities like vegetables, cooking oil. The internet has been blocked as a result of these protests. The economy is plunging despite vast oil reserves. As you all know, Iran possesses around 12% of the world's proven oil reserves and it's a major gas exporting economy. Yet its people struggle to afford basic necessities. Now we'll be talking about the Iran's golden era. As you know, way back in 1970, Iran was one of the richest nations on earth. Tehran was called the Paris of the Middle East. It was a symbol of prosperity, modernity, and economic success in the region. Iran was so rich in 1970 that they used to lend billions of dollars to UK and France during economic crisis. This was Iran 40 years ago, a stark contrast to today's reality. But the biggest question over here is, when Iran was so rich earlier, why today, despite being the third largest oil reserves in the world, it has become so poor? What did the government do that destroyed all their wealth? Now see the turning point. Now there have been three transformative events in 1979. The revolution that happened in 1979 changed everything in Iran. Firstly, there was political overthrow. The American puppet ruler Reza Pahlavi, he was overthrown by a religious revolution that fundamentally changed Iran's political landscape and its relationship with the West. Secondly, Islamic Republic got established. Ayatollah Ali Khomeini, he returned from exile to declare an Islamic republic, ending 2500 years of Persian monarchy. The result of it was overnight Iranian oil was nationalized and American oil companies were expelled. Then there was hostage crisis. In November 1979, revolutionary students stormed the US embassy in Tehran and took 66 American hostages for 444 days. This turned America into Iran's enemy and triggered devastating sanctions on it. As American companies lost billions of dollars in oil revenue when they were kicked out of Iran. Thus, the 1979 revolution marked the beginning of Iran's economic isolation and its decline. The sanctions regime. As you know, the result of it was Iran has to face many sanctions imposed by US on its oil and economy. Following the hostage crisis, America froze Iranian assets abroad, cutting off Iran's access to its own wealth and financial resources in international market. The United States imposed comprehensive trade sanctions that strangled Iran's economy, limiting its ability to export oil, import goods, and engage in international trade. So here you can see the compounding effect of it. As sanctions compounded existing structural problem in Iran's economy, it created a vicious cycle of economic decline that continues to this day. Now we'll be talking about the root causes for it. As you know, economic mismanagement and corruption are the reasons. Economic mismanagement by the government has been a critical factor in Iran's decline. Poor fiscal policies, misallocation of resources, and failure to diversify the economy beyond oil have weakened Iran's economic foundation. Moving ahead, corruption, especially endemic corruption, it has plagued Iran's government and business sectors, diverting resources away from public welfare into the hands of privileged few, further exacerbating economic inequality and inefficiency. Lastly, structural inefficiencies in Iran's economy are also one of the cause for this mismanagement. Now, when we talk about the structural inefficiencies in Iran economy, it includes bloated public sector, lack of private sector development, and inadequate infrastructure that hampers productivity and economic growth. So while US sanctions created trouble for Iran, economic mismanagement, corruption, and structural inefficiencies have brought Iran to where it is today. This combination of external pressure and internal failure created the perfect storm for Iran. Now, lastly, what are the lessons that India and the world needs to learn from this Iran crisis? Firstly, American sanctions are not a joke. One needs to trade very carefully with America. The Iranian experience demonstrates that American sanctions can devastate an economy regardless of country's natural resource wealth or historical prosperity. So it's time that nations must understand the economic warfare implications and they need to develop strategies to mitigate sanction risk. Another critical lesson for policymaker is crony capitalism. One should understand that crony capitalism is destructive. It's the worst thing to happen to a country. The country will grow for decades, but one day everything will come crashing down. So, whether it's Iran or India or any other country, we cannot let big entrepreneurs rule over the country. Now, quickly, let me give you a brief up regarding the key takeaways from this crisis. Firstly, economic diversification is essential. Good governance definitely prevents corruption. It's very important to be aware about geopolitics. So, geopolitical awareness is critical here. Crony capitalism definitely undermines stability. And lastly, sanctions can be devastating. So, I hope I've been able to make you understand why Iran is burning today. Thank you.